Welcome to this tutorial video on how to use your Tekie web hosting cPanel. The cPanel is also known as the control panel, where all of the technical aspects of your web hosting service are managed. So let's get into it. It's very easy, just go to Tekie. Let's log in. For this tutorial, I'll be logging into one of our demo website accounts, website hosting accounts. Okay, and this is the customer portal, as we discussed in the first video that goes with your web hosting package documentation. So to get to the cPanel link, we'll click on Services for our web hosting services. We'll select this, and then we'll see some more menu action items on the left. So we're going to log into cPanel. Now in your documentation packet, you will have a direct link to get to the cPanel. However, if you do use that, you're going to have to remember your cPanel password, which is always different to your customer portal password, as they are two separate platforms. And also this is best for security. Okay, so let's log into the cPanel by just clicking the link. And this is our basic layout, okay? It's very busy, there's a lot going on, and as you can see in the top left, this little image does tell you that you are logged into the control panel. And you can see on the left side you've got all these different categories, and these different categories are meant to make it easier for you, so everything's separated. And you can minimize these so we can just look at the headings for each category. Okay, so you can see we've got files, backup solution, billing and support, which really links back through to the client or customer portal. So I wouldn't really use those here. I'd use those in the customer portal. Database management, domains, subdomains, add-on domain management, email configuration. You've got analytics and metrics built in. Of course, we do recommend that you use, if your business revenue and profitability and conversion rates, or rather all depends on online marketing and conversion rates, then it's probably a good idea to also integrate additional analytics solutions that really help you refine your conversion rates. And if that's what you do, you'll already be very familiar with this. So for one example would be Google Analytics. There are some basic security settings, such as configuring and viewing the SSL status for your security certificate. You can install software. There's lots of different types of open source software. This is the majority of websites use open source CMS, different CMS software, and that stands for Content Management System. WordPress is an example. Joomla and Drupal are two other leading solutions as well. Some advanced settings, preferences, and then we have a website builder. So just like if you've seen adverts maybe on YouTube for Wix, this is a very similar solution, but it's 100% free and there's no advertising. So it's much better than Wix, although if you follow our tutorial videos, you'll be able to install premium themes and modify those themes and add content and build up your business with various internet marketing and content-driven tasks that we provide in our tutorial videos. And in that case, we wouldn't use something like this. It's too clunky, but it's very good for newbies, people wanting to experience doing their first website, or for simple basic projects and sites that are going to stay fairly static. So it is a good solution. If you've looked at adverts for Wix or other things like Squarespace, then I highly recommend this. It's just built into the hosting. Softalicious. This is a piece of software that installs all the other software, like I said, for WordPress and Joomla and photo albums and e-commerce shopping carts and project trackers, all open source. And of course you can install a lot of other software as well on your server that isn't included in this. But this does include a lot of very common and popular applications. Okay, so now we've gone through all the headings. We will expand all of these again. So we'll see the same view as when you log in. Okay, so that's the left portion of the screen. If you click, you see there's some other thumbnails here. If you click on this top one, it's just going to bring you back to the home page, this primary dashboard again. It's going to bring you back here. And this is for user management, so you could give other people in your organization access. Okay, now on the right side of the screen, you do have a search function at the top, but the ideal way to search for things that when you're not familiar exactly which category they're in is just to use the search window on the top left. But let's look at on the top right now. You've got a menu, a user menu, where you can change account preferences, please don't, and other aspects. But generally you won't use this menu. It's really it's not necessary, because if you're going to change information like this, you'll do it in the customer portal area. See if you've received any notifications. That's rare that there'd be any notifications in the cPanel. It's a possibility you'd see it, a little symbol on there if that was the case. Let's go back to the main dashboard. So on the right hand side you have your server information. That's the IP address that you're on, your primary web domain name that you use with this account. You also have all of your quota statistics. Okay, this is not the same as analytics or metrics for visitors of your website. This is for the package that you're paying for hosting, and this is the standard package. And this shows you how many email accounts you can create, the maximum number of files that can be on your server, the amount of disk space you have, bandwidth you can use, databases that you've got access to, Addon Domains, subdomains, and all the other quota limitations that you might have associated with your account. Okay, so this doesn't have anything on it right now. It's barely being used. There isn't even a content management or static web page. If you remember from our last video, it's still got just the placeholder. If you were maxing out one of your quotas, just contact technical support, customer support in any fashion, and let us know, and we can certainly upgrade you to a larger account. Granted, most of the time we just mark it on our main website, one standard account, because that is the most optimum that we find for our small business customers, but we can certainly make any size package that's suitable for you. Okay, so now let's go into some of the usage of some of the primary things that we might access. Okay, so again, the cPanel is your control panel for the technical aspects of your website. So we've gone through the page layout on the left side with all the categories and options, and on the right side with your quotas and statistics. Okay, so now let's look at some of the settings that are the most common. So one thing is that we'll jump ahead to is your SSL certificate. On cheap hosting or I would say low-grade hosting solutions, you will often have to pay extra and mess around technically to get your SSL certificate working. What is the SSL certificate? It's that little padlock that we see on the top of the screen that lets us know that the web page is secure, so that any data that we send to the server or through the website, and any data coming back, is encrypted from the point of my browser to the server itself. Okay, and search engines today really penalize web pages in the search results that don't have an active SSL certificate. Okay, so it is important, and our service does provide automatically configured SSL certificates every time you add a domain name or an add-on domain. And then for subdomains and to check on if it's been configured and if everything's working fine for your SSL. For example, if we click on this link, you can see it's got its little padlock and it has an SSL certificate that we could view. Okay. One useful feature is to have a look at your SSL status. So if we type SSL in the search bar in the top here, it brings up the security category. Again, if we don't type it in, it's a very busy page, but we can scroll down until we see security, and then we can go to the right, we can see SSL TLS status. Let's type it in again and keep it simple. So you can configure your SSL, but unless you know what you're doing, there's no need to do that. No need to use this wizard, because it all will set up automatically for you. And if it's not set up right away, if you just wait one day, a lot of tasks on server systems will run in maintenance windows at night automatically, and it'll update settings. So sometimes it might be the next day, the next morning, when you notice that the SSL is fully set up. So to check on that, you'd click the status option, SSL TLS status, and you'll see a list of different subdomains that are automatically configured for use with your account, and any that you may have set up manually. And these are all green, showing that all the SSL certificates are working across all the subdomains for this website. And if that wasn't the case, you'd be able to exclude the ones that are okay, and you'd be able to run this button here. You'd be able to select the ones that have not been configured, and you can run an auto SSL. So if you don't want to wait until the next day and some of these are red, and you want to make sure your website has that nice SSL certificate for search ranking and everything else, then you would find the ones that haven't been configured, select them, and then hit the run auto SSL. And that'll take a couple of minutes, and that should have your SSL running. If you do have any issues, please contact support. So that is important. Next on our list, let's see, we'll have a look at our files. So this is right at the top here. We don't need to search for it, but let's say you weren't sure, you type in file. So File Manager. File Manager gives us a folder view of the folders on the server for your account. So a lot of these, again, this is designed and used by web professionals, so be careful what you do. Anything to do with the cPanel, be very careful what you do. If you're not that familiar, watch tutorial videos, and or hire a web professional, because it's very easy to break things. Now, typically all of your public-facing web pages and web services are going to be hosted in this folder here, public HTML. And the system, when you add a domain name and create a new hosting account, will automatically copy over these three items here. You've got a folder with some items in it, just some images, and a CSS file for styling, and you have a default home page, a welcome page letting you know it's up and running, and what's called a fav icon. The fav icon gives you these little symbols in the web browser tabs at the top, which is very good for branding for your business. So when you want to put your web pages here or install a content management system like WordPress, you would delete these files first. There wouldn't be a problem if they were left there, but just delete those files and put your new website files on there. Now let's say you wanted to, let's say this was, if we go back to cPanel and let's go to our web page, let's say this was your actual web page that you liked and you wanted to do a little edit to it. So it's very easy from within the system. Typically a web professional won't do this. They'll use what's called FTP clients, that's file transfer protocol, so that they've got direct access to these folders with a piece of software, and they can move files back and forth from the server to their desktop very rapidly and edit them locally and then sync the copies back and forth. But for quick fixes, we can just go to this file here. We can go to the menu at the top, left-click Edit, just click the Edit button, and this is the whole file. So and that is the file that then displays this page here. So if you wanted to do a quick edit, we could just put thank you in brackets, or as some people say, parentheses, save the changes, go to our page, reload it, and that's that. It reflects right away. So that's how quick and easy it is to edit static website web page content. Okay, we'll just change that back. Save it. We'll close the page. Reload here, and it's changed back. Okay, so this is the file manager. Now you can upload files. You can drag files from a file browser into this little box here, or select files manually, and that's going to put them in the folder that is currently selected. So that's one way to move files to your server without using an FTP client. So that's a basic overview of the file manager. So as you can see, there are so many options that if we went through every single one, this tutorial video would be several hours long. So in the file section, we've looked at editing a file, the option to upload files to the server, where your customer-facing viewable files are on a web page, and there's other options as well, from directory privacy and security settings, setting up FTP accounts, your disk usage statistics. So if your quota, if you get a notification when you log in to your customer area and your quota and bandwidth are very high and going through the roof and you're not sure why, and these lines are red over here, then you could look at your disk usage quota, and you could see what's taking up all of the space. Make sure it's not a malware attack, or if you've got an option on your website where people can upload files, that you've set the correct limits. So there's many specific things depending on how you are using your website, what applications, and what you're doing with it. So let's go on to another topic. We'll have a quick look at email. There will be a separate video in your documentation, your new account documentation for email. But in the cPanel, all the email settings are here. Again, if you wanted to search for them in the box at the top, you just type in email, you find it right away. So let's look at email accounts. We have one email account. There's every time that a website is set up on a Tekie server, there is a catch-all default email. It's pretty much never used. You can configure it to catch the emails. If someone sends an email or misspells demo, maybe they put an A in here or something, or an R, it'll still go through to this email box. Now the problem with doing a catch-all today is that it's going to fill up with spam, because spam bots just create random words and use random word databases to attack websites and fool people with phishing emails and whatnot. Okay, so I went back to the main page, but I was going to create an email account. So if you wanted to add a new email account, you just click create. Let's go back, because I do this pretty fast sometimes. I always have to slow myself down when doing tutorial videos. So to create a new email account, it'd be on the right. This button is just to see if you've got a lot of emails, how many display on one page before you have to tab to the next page. So anyway, on the standard hosting, we offer 5 total email accounts. Now, we could offer more than that. However, what we've noticed with customers is, well, these email accounts are very high grade. They're excellent. I use them, but they're not business grade because they share the IP address of the web server, and they share the quota, the disk storage quota on the whole account. So if you have 10 email accounts and you give them all 2 or 3 gigs of storage, then that's it, you've gone over quota, right? They won't go over quota right away. They'll have to fill up with files, but there is a potential there for problems for people, so we do limit the number of emails for that reason. If you need a very large email account, 30 gigs, 5 gigs, or different combinations thereof for business, and also for use with newsletter services, autoresponders, email marketing, then please let us know, because we can help set up anything like that. And it's very important not to try doing email marketing from one of these email accounts, because most likely they will get blacklisted, and then your whole account will be blacklisted. So then you'll find that people just aren't receiving your emails because the IP address associated with your account is in spam databases. So that happens very easily. So it's important how we manage our email. But you want to create a new one, just click on this create button. If you've got multiple domains and Addon Domains, then you'll have a drop-down list here where you can select the domain you want. And this account there is just one currently, so we could create a test email account. We could type in or paste a password from a password manager, or we could generate one here. It defaults to giving your account 1 gig of storage. That's fine. We'll just say this is a smaller account that's not going to be used very much. We'll give it 512 meg. We'll create it, and you can see it on our list here. And then let's say we wanted to add this to an email client. Well, we've got another video in your documentation package that will cover more details about the email creation, management, and webmail to check them process. And we'll go through taking the credentials that you can see here. The recommended settings are always secure with SSL. You shouldn't be using anything otherwise today, maybe 15 years ago. And so in the specific email video, we'll go through how to set up an email client. Okay, so on to the next topic in our list here. There are, depending on what application or software package for your content manager you are going to be using the hosting account for, you may need to tweak and tune your PHP settings. So if we just type in PHP, we'll see under the software category on the right, we've got select PHP version. So if we click on this, this is a very technical aspect that if you're not technical, you wouldn't know about it. If you are technical, you don't need to be watching this little tutorial, but maybe you'll stumble on it, or maybe you'll be following a tutorial at some point where you're going to be doing more technical aspects. So it's good for us to have a quick look at the PHP selector. So for example, in WordPress, there are what's called caching plugins that allow the web pages to load faster. And sometimes in order for those to work, we might need to select an option and turn it on in this menu for how the PHP scripting language and engine runs on your server instance, right? So one of these is called memcache, for example, and we should see it in this list. And I'm not seeing it there. Well, there's memcached. That is it right there. So we might want to just click that and turn it on. You can see there's a notification, and now that's enabled. Now, as I don't need this on, I was just using that as an example. Okay, but if you're not sure or don't know what you're doing, don't touch any of these items. Let's have a look at this PHP version. We can also select the PHP version that is running on our account, because let's say I'm installing, for whatever reason, an older version of WordPress, or an old on a specific type of software. Let's say it's a photo album manager or a file manager for clients to log in and download files, and maybe that particular piece of software isn't supporting this version of PHP. So then we can select usually a more newer but possibly less stable and older versions of PHP. So that is an option there. One other thing we can do is, this is the extensions portion of the PHP settings. We can also select the options. Now in the options we can change certain other aspects of how PHP runs, such as execution timeouts if scripts are being run, maximum number of input variables, memory limits, and things like that. But again, the default settings are good for most people and most applications, and if you do need to change these, you'll probably be a little bit familiar with it already. But sometimes in some of my tutorial videos, I should say some Tekie tutorial videos, we will be doing technical tasks where we may need to come into this menu and change some of these settings. Now let's take a look at database management. So if we scroll down here, again, you could just search for it. we see databases here. So pretty much most websites today use databases and create and what's called dynamic content. So the content management system keeps a lot of information in the database, and that allows you to have a very large, manageable website with administration logins and even user logins and whatnot. Now there are databaseless CMSs out as well that work very well, but still the majority are database driven, especially for complex tasks and large sites. So when you're setting up a new website, you can create your own database. So you can go to MySQL databases. Now these are MySQL compatible, but they're actually an upgraded version. These use MariaDB. It's a more robust, more capable, more secure, more modern version that uses the MySQL standard. So so there's no databases right now on this account. So we could create one, and then we could scroll down here, and then to the bottom part of the page, and then we could create a user, and then we can associate that user with the database, and then we save those credentials, and then when we install our content management system, lower down on the page, if we do it ourselves, like WordPress, then we would give it that information. Now, of course, there's manual ways to install the software, where I would download the version of WordPress directly from their website, and then I would FTP to transfer the files to the server, and then I would manually edit the configuration files and put in my database credentials. Now, from the software install and management page, if you want to go back to your main cPanel dashboard, you see you've got these icons on the top right. Just click on the first one, and then we're back. So again, you can manually create a database, manually create users. However, if you use the software installer at the bottom called Softalicious to install WordPress, then that manages that for you. So you don't need to save those credentials, and there is a way to come and find them later. There will be a tutorial about this in depth from start to finish building WordPress websites, and that will be in the video tutorial membership service that will be rolling out in 2021. Okay, so that's a little bit about databases. Now, if you did have a database created and you saw it in the list here, then one technical tool that web professionals use to manage, backup, and also update or troubleshoot their database is a software tool called PHP MyAdmin. So you would select this, and it will log you in to this window here, which if you had a database, if there was a database created, or multiple databases, you'd see them listed on the left here, and then you'd be able to select them, edit specific fields, run different scripts if you're familiar with SQL. So this is a very useful tool for database professionals. So we'll close this down. So that's some details about database administration. Now, it's so tied in, is database administration, with installing software. However, like I said, if you use the built-in software installer, Softalicious, it will manage the database creation process and make it much easier for you. So now let's take a look at domain names, or not domain names, domain name management. So we can look at our domains here. Now, remember, when you created your hosting account, you would have listed an external domain name, or you would have registered a domain name with us. And whichever choice you made there, that becomes the primary domain on your account. If you contact support, if there's a need for you to change your primary domain name because your original website is no longer in existence, or you're doing a name change or something, then please contact support. We'll be able to modify that for you. Similarly, your username is automatically created from the first few characters of your primary domain name, and this also is not changeable. So let's have a look now and see how we would manage our domains. Also on the right, you'll see a quota of how many add-on domains you can have on the standard hosting package. So you can have a total of 2 add-ons, that's external domains, up to 10 subdomains, and you have your primary domain. So that means you could host 3 separate websites and have a selection of subdomains across those websites in addition. A subdomain might be, as you see in the top URL bar here on the web page, sol.securewebhosting.net. So that's one of our data center servers, and this is an identifier that creates a subdomain for different usage on that server. So you might have mail, you might have FAQ, frequently asked questions, you might have a wiki, so wiki.mydomainname or wiki.demosite101, that's a subdomain. So we can now go to our domains category, and let's click on domains, and we'll see we just have our one primary domain. If this isn't selected, you should always have that selected. It helps ensure that your website is always redirects to the secure SSL certificate version with a little padlock. You can't create a new domain here, but you can purchase one in the customer portal and then add it onto your account. And if you have issues with that, contact support. So this is where you see a list of domains. Now let's have a look at subdomains. So Addon Domain, like I said, is you own an external domain. You'll log into your domain registrar, and then you'll update your DNS, dynamic name server settings, so that it's now associated with your website. And then you can add in your add-on domain here. You give it you can choose a new folder, or it'll create a folder for it automatically. Now, if I create add-on domains, I like to give it a new folder for add-on domains, purely to make the websites more secure. So if one gets a malware attack, it's less likely to affect anything else on the hosting package. So one way we'd do that is go back to the main dashboard, select the file manager, and then we could create a new folder here. Otherwise, you're going to have your add-on domains are going to be in this folder or in your root folder. Typically, it will create them in the root folder, and that gives you a privacy separation. But again, if you subscribe to our business tutorial videos coming out in 2021, then you can follow that process very simply, very well pieced out in steps for you to follow. So let's close this down. So that's a little bit about domains. Add-on domains are the ones that we own. It's going to be a domain name like this that we've just registered through a different company. And then subdomains. So subdomains, let's say you wanted a wiki. So we would just type that in, wiki. It's going to show us what our URL is going to be looking like associated with this domain name. If you've got multiple domains, like add-on domains on your account, you manage multiple websites, you'll have an option to choose which one here. And the other option is, if you're familiar with that other page for the file system, then we might want to put it in a slightly different folder from root. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to open the file system in another tab, the file manager. And right now, if we created this subdomain, then this URL here, it would create a folder under root. So it would just add another folder. Now, you might want that folder for the way that you manage your server files to be in a different location. So one thing that you might want to do is create a new folder here, and we'll in the root, and we'll call it public HTML wiki, for example. So now you see on your folder structure on the left, now you have this new folder. I like calling anything that we do that we separate from our main public HTML, I like giving it this prefix of public HTML. It keeps it aligned alphanumerically on the left, so it's all in order, easy to find if I have multiple subdomains or add-on websites. And it keeps a folder separation, so this one isn't a subfolder of this one. And that gives us a certain level of protection against malware. Okay, so that's a simple way to create a subdomain. We've given it this new folder. We could copy that folder now over into the creation page, put in, remove the space, put in a slash, a forward slash, and then we can create it. Now, it's not that simple. So we have one subdomain. That's not exactly ready to use right now because we have to do some other steps with SSL configuration, or we'll just wait one day. And obviously then put files into this space so that it can be viewed. Now let's have a look and see what this new page, let's have a look and see what this page looks like if we actually went. So as you can see, if we go to this this new subdomain we created, we show a folder view. So that is viewable for anyone on the internet. So that's another technical setting that we can change on our Lightspeed web server settings. So but that's more technical and in-depth for this overview video that goes with your documentation. But do keep a look in the knowledge base and have a look for the updates for our video training service that's coming along. Okay, so now we've covered quite a lot of functions in our cPanel. We'll leave that wiki subdomain sitting there, and let's go back to the main page. So we've looked a little bit about domain settings, primary domain, and the differentiation between subdomains and add-on domain. So two final things I'd like to touch on in this video, and I know that is a long video, so thanks for bearing with us. And remember, in the business training, we'll be breaking down any tutorials into easy to follow sections with pop-up visuals as necessary, and detailed notes if those are necessary as well, associated with each lesson. So the two final things I'd like to touch on is how would you get a website up and running on your hosting account if you're not a web professional or that familiar with it. So there are two ways here. One is our built-in website builder. It's called Sitepad, and that should be sitting in right here in this box. So what you can see here is you've got a view of templates. I think there's something like 600 templates, and if you were to purchase this this software service yourself, I think it runs about $55 a year currently. So it is a paid service that we have integrated into our hosting package through our data center and software agreements. So that is a benefit for you. Now, we will be showing videos on how to create basic websites using this, but I much prefer for people to use WordPress and follow our WordPress tutorial videos instead. However, there is a use for these website builders, and a lot of people will pay for services like Wix, and there really isn't much difference between them except they'll be paying for Wix, and if they don't, they'll get advertising. So the Sitepad is a better solution, or at least a good alternative for the people that are doing it themselves and learning from more basic steps. So let's say we want to have a quick look at that. We can come to the software page up here, or just go to the top, search, and type in Sitepad. Okay, so now you see these templates, but there's far more templates than these. So let's just select the website builder and see what comes up. There's no sites yet, so we can create a new one. Okay, so we'll choose a theme, put in details, and then we can publish it to make it live. So now we can see here are our different categories. there are so many. Here are all the multiple pages and each page is packed full of themes like these ones. Okay, so let's just take one like this over here. It looks like a nice theme. First of all, we can have a look at what the finished page website will look like. We can even view a demo. So it actually does create decent basic web pages, websites. And it is pretty simple to use. So for people that are starting out and want to do it themselves with a basic website, then this is pretty useful. Even for simple business websites. However, for more functionality, flexibility, more power, and then more ease of use moving forwards, I would recommend again to follow our other tutorials. But I do like this platform, and it is a premium paid platform if you didn't have it included with your hosting package. Okay, so that's our website builder software, and it's called Sitepad. And now let's look at other software installers through what's called this Softalicious app. So first of all, you've got categories for blogs and CMSs and other things, and then you've got specific software applications. So again, it is in the software section. You should be able to select it, Softalicious app installer. And in fact, let's just click on that. It gives you a list of the top scripts or software that is used. Let's select WordPress. Now, this doesn't always allow demos to run because demos with content managed systems are a bit more complex. They require databases to be set up and other things. So oftentimes the demos don't function on the Softalicious software, just letting you know. Sometimes there are screenshots, sometimes not. Usually they're not a good representation of what the software does, so you'd be better off doing a web search on templating for these different softwares. So as you can see here, if we had WordPress installed and it was installed using this installer, we would see it listed at the bottom of the screen, and you'd have an option to update it if a new version came along, and you'd also have an option to look at the configuration settings, which would give you your database login passwords and credentials that it creates for you. We can install it right now, and I will be showing a video on how to install and set up WordPress and templates and websites. But for right now, it's going to take far too long. So I'm just giving you a little example of what the starting point looks like. And if you're interested in this, look out for future videos. Okay, so that completes our documentation video for our cPanel control panel overview with Tekie hosting. Thank you for watching. And our next video in the documentation series should be walking you through how to set up an email account and add it to a local desktop or mobile device email client. Thank you again for joining Tekie Hosting.